Top of the morning, me hentai, it's your boy Big Body. And today we tackling chest as well as a topic that gave me hemorrhoids. On the menu today is incline bench press and chest dips. In the incline bench press category we have incline bench pressing, 25% more than your body weight. Incline bench pressing, your body weight. And incline benching, I think 25% less than your body weight, but I didn't do that because I ain't no bread. And for chest dips, we had weighted dips, 1.5 reps, and then I think body weight alone. But of course, yet again, refers to the first thing, I ain't no bread, so I ain't do that. But those exercises paled in comparison to the arsenality that came across my For You page yesterday.
Let's talk about hobosexuals for a second.
The hobosexual.
He moving in after 1 week. Hobosexual.
But naturally, in big body fashion, the take that I have on this may very well surprise you. We are talking about none other than the rise of the hobosexual.
Big body fighting people are mocking.
Now, normally I'd do the scent of the day, which if I would have done it, it would have been Mont Blanc's Explorer. However, I forgot to wear cologne, and nobody cared. It would seem as though the hobosexual is a term to describe a man seeking a parasitic relationship with a woman in this case, if we're speaking in binaries.
When I was broke up, I was getting a lot more women because in bed, yeah, you're giving the wood of your life. When you're broke, yeah, and you ain't got nowhere to stay.
The first tier of this iceberg, my reaction to it. The TikTok in question essentially details how men can make themselves seem more useful than they actually are to women by ways of manufacturing events to make them look like they are providing or protecting or doing anything that society deems to be desirable in men.
Basically what you do is you go over to girl house, you know what I'm saying? This is the first time she let you come through, you know what I'm saying? You gotta hit her at her house the first time. This is the only way the plan is gonna work. So you get her to let you come over there and hit her at her crib. You dog it down, you feel me? Beat the doonies all the way down, you feel me? And then fall asleep, you know what I'm saying? But you gotta make sure it's on a day that you know she gotta go to work in the morning. You feel me? So you come over there, kill it, fall asleep. If she wake up in the morning and just go to work and don't wake you up and tell you to leave or nothing like that, then just don't never leave.
Now, beyond the very likely possibility that this is rage bait, things that are made to get our attention, to stoke flames in between genders, because I kid you not, there are all types of arrangements where men and women are doing different gender roles than they're typically prescribed and living rather harmonious lives. But I won't gaslight y'all into thinking that this isn't something that women and men both grieve about, URL as well as IRL. Online as well as in person. And we often hear about women trying to marry up as it pertains to hypergamy. Hypergamy being marrying men that are in a better financial position than you are as a woman. All of these things adduce to a reality that is a reality. I'm not going to gaslight you like a lot of these different channels are going to say, and basically say that this is not totally rooted in real life, because it is. That doesn't negate the fact that you do have a lot of different arrangements amongst men and women and everything in between and everything outside of, where there are different people playing different roles than they are typically prescribed. And that's also kind of my point. The fact of the matter is, this is basically the same thing as gold diggers, which is an overgeneralization of women that prey upon men to get into parasitic relationships where they can siphon off wealth in exchange for something relatively less valuable. So, example, gold diggers that are looking for gold are more so remunerating the man with sexual favors as well as being a trophy wife or anything like that. This is an overgeneralization of a very small microcosm of women that are only responding to the fact that society has built a particular dynamic where men are benefiting with an asterisk, with a caveat, because we don't really benefit from this idea that we are at the apex or the apogee of societal hierarchies. But centuries upon centuries of societal conditioning has essentially made men socially nerfed, socially OP, if you will, and therefore have created a dependency factor that women now have to respond to. And some of them, if they have just the right traits that get them some sort of proximity to desirability in the type of society that we've designed, that means that they can access particular men that are performing a particular level of finances, which is very limited, which is not the norm, which is not the average, but more on that in a second. And that microcosm of women are very limited, because women that are able to access men like that are very far and few in between. And on top of that, the women that are able to access men that are performing at a very high level of man and masculinity, which is provide, protect, financial adeptitude, all of them things, those men aren't necessarily performing it with a smile, with kindness, with communication, with a respect for that woman's humanity. They don't see them as a person. They see them as an epilogue, as a trophy, as a maid, as a sex slave, as a representation of their masculinity, much like their money, much like their cars, much like their clothes, whatever have you. To those men, the women are social status symbols. So, are you really getting anything, is the question, as a woman that is able to perform femininity, that can attract a man that is able to perform masculinity? But here's where some of y'all might get a little pissed off at me. Some of y'all might downvote the video. Some of y'all might leave a hate comment. Some of y'all might say that you could fit a whole bus in between my gap. All right, hear me out though, because there is some adjacent things that this TikTok, this hobosexual concept kind of hits on, but they just do it the wrong way.
There are guys out there who, when they see a woman who has her together, they will leech. And then that person now becomes my responsibility.
Mm-hmm. So what is really happening in this TikTok? We're denigrating men that seem to be squatting and seeking parasitic relationships, parasite relationships, one where those men aren't giving anything or nearly as much as the woman in this dynamic is giving. And we're denigrating them, we're calling them hobosexuals, equating them to people who are homeless, who have no means, who are often groveling, which also, yet again, is kind of classist in a way, you know, kind of also condescending to and maligning a group of people that I doubt want to be homeless. I doubt that anybody that is homeless or hobo in this case actually desire to live on the fringes of society rather than find gainful employment to participate in capitalism to some extent and maintain their dignity. It is a very indignifying experience to have to panhandle, to have food insecurity and do things that you normally would not have to do if you had the means to do them. But we're assigning these men, these class of men, who some people would deem that they are not looking for love, not looking for even a attractive or a superficial type of arrangement. They're simply looking for shelter. And the first thing that comes to mind is that sometimes there's nothing really wrong with that. I genuinely wonder what our sense of community is if we think that someone in a position where they cannot financially provide for themselves deserve to be denigrated, deserve to be seen as a parasite. The type of situation that creates the need for this person to have to look to someone else in order to sustain themselves is a very undesirable position to be in. And very easily, this can be any of us. Very easily can tragedy happen to us that will turn whatever fortune we have into nothing. And we end up having to be a hobosexual or a hobo in general and rely on the altruism and solicitude of people, of strangers. The way that these men are, of course, doing it in this TikTok is more so a romantic means of getting what they need. they shouldn't have to use romantic means in order to get what they need. And the double standard in this is that you will get far less social sanctions placed upon you as a woman that is in a hobosexual type of role than you would as a man. Because society has deemed men in this position to be undesirable. But this is encouraged for women due to benevolent sexism. And here's where a lot of the women and femmes them, y'all might get a little mad with me, but hear me out. The way that men that most resemble a traditional masculine stereotype is upheld online and in real life, in church, in social circles, the way that we encourage a man to always pay for the meal at the end of a date, hold doors open for you, fit in every traditional role possible, like most of the things that you need to do in order to survive, things pertaining to fixing your car, all of these other things that men are typically assumed to do, is a very dangerous thing to uphold. Is not the flex that you think. And this is coming from someone that does all of those traditional things. My wife is what I call a domestic engineer, as she has the primary caregiver role to our newborn son. And I say domestic engineer with no jest, with no smile, because it is a job. It is a lot of work. Even when I, as a father, do the masculine shuffle, bring home the bacon, all of these other things, fix things as breaking down, getting a car, gas, fill up all of that, taking out the trash, everything that you associate with man, I'm also doing a part of the caregiving, which is something that traditional masculinity hasn't always seen to be a masculine thing. Back in the days of yore, a lot of men would simply just leave their wife with their child and come back when the child could talk. But not only do I find it important to be in that child's life, be in the baby's life before he can talk, as soon as possible from the labor room itself, but it's important for the man to be just as crucial and essential of a role in the baby's maturation as possible. But I'll be lying to you if I didn't say that I don't lose this progressive, calm-tempered masculinity and empathy that you see right here after a long day of doing the masculinity shuffle, and then also doing what is not seen as canonically masculine, which is caregiving, which is child rearing. I'm not going to beguile or gaslight you into thinking that I am able to perform both of those roles without a bit of bitterness. And that's something that both my wife and I struggle with. She wants to work. That's the whole thing. Because she understands that even if I don't find aggression in this arrangement and I don't exact the frustration of being a patriarch, of being the sole breadwinner, she still feels guilt and a sense of lack of worth by not earning, which is also one of the reasons why I married her, because she's not there to be a parasite. She's actually there and she's providing a net benefit to the union, which in this case right now is primarily caregiving our child. That is no easy feat. And the way that we don't recognize that is absolutely abhorrent and inaccurate. That being said, a lot of women in my experience like to romanticize what is truly benevolent sexism. I'm putting the definition here, but essentially, benevolent sexism is sexism that seems chivalrous. Sexy sexism. Things that I even fall for on a regular basis, like not letting my wife pay for things when she really wants to pay for them. Or something as seemingly benign as picking something up for someone when they can physically pick them up for themselves and they didn't ask me to do so at all. Benevolent sexism feeds into the damsel in distress archetype for women, which takes away their agency, which reinforces their dependency upon men, and ultimately infantilizes them, makes them children, which is a step closer to us rationalizing and justifying whatever type of treatment we give to them, whatever type of harm we render them. So as much as we all may not like having to work at jobs that we don't enjoy to barely get by, and we would so much like a paternal figure at times to just come in, swoop us up, and take care of everything, it may not be exactly as milk and honey as you think it is. But not to get on the man them case, because yet again I try to piss off everybody. There's some truth to the hobosexual. There's some truth to why I wouldn't recommend, if I had a daughter, that she date or couple or partner with a man that is not in a financial place that he is comfortable with. And there's a reason for that. First, I want to premise that everyone has intrinsic value. Everyone is born with worth, with value. You are enough when you come out. Whatever state you're in, there is value in you. But due to the way that society has conditioned men to feel like their value is so strongly attached to their ability to earn, ability to perform masculinity in this unattainable way, untenable and unsustainable way. These masculinity benefits, the way that society is supposed to nerf men to be apex, to be apogees, to be looked at as leaders, and therefore to have more weight and gravity in different social dynamics than women, is the same thing that is killing us, that is making us cold. It is the very thing that will make a man in a relationship with a woman where he earns less than that woman cheat, want and desire to embarrass that woman, sabotage that relationship, harm that woman in many different ways, and ultimately commit many different acts of emotional, economic, and physical terrorism. And I want to emphasize, I can't stress this enough, that this is not the man's fault. This is society's fault in how we structure what a man ought to be. So when we don't meet that, we take out our frustration that should be directed to a system that does not serve us on our partner. We often see this in any situation where it is a man that is earning significantly less than the woman, or maybe they're earning the same thing and they're just not able to make ends meet because shit's hard. Those are often arrangements where, especially black men, if you are not able to perform at a financial level that secures your dignity, you may very well not be able to conceptualize, compartmentalize, and reconcile with the fact that despite you not being able to do that right now, it has absolutely no bearing on your worth. And you are still on an equal playing field with this woman. Which then again brings me to this. Do you actually want to be equal with your woman? Do you see them as an equal? Do you see them as a mental sparring partner, as someone that is equally yoked, as much as I don't like that phrase? Or do you see them as a subordinate, as a toady, as a lackey, as someone less than you? You'll probably never say it, right? But here's the exercise. If your gal made more than you, would you be okay with that? Would you be okay when y'all go out to eat and she picks up the bill and everybody sees that she's picking up the bill? Would you be okay when y'all get in your mutual friend groups and she's talking about finances in a provide and protect role? Are you secure enough in your masculinity, and be honest with yourself, to assume roles that are not traditionally masculine? Because I ain't gonna lie to you, I'll have trouble with it. If my wife made more than me right now, I mean, I'd be happy with it, but I'd be happy with it behind closed doors. However, when we get to functions and different conversations and she's talking about finances and bills like I'm not contributing as chiefly as she is, I don't know how I deal with that. I don't know how I deal all the time with the reactions to that in order to soothe my own masculinity. And ladies, yet again, do you feel like you won't be tyrannical if you had economic superiority in the relationship? Could we trust you to be the breadwinner and to not emasculate us, to not castrate us? Because quite often, we also see that that is exactly what happens to men that don't earn as much as the women that they're in relationships with. And that leads to a bunch of different frustrations. In fact, I think we might be ready for that video on why men cheat. Let me know in the comments if you want to get that. But until then, I'm about to edit this video and upload it, so you go see that right now. But watch more Big Body Foreign over here if you haven't seen it yet. I can see you in the next one. Peace!